times like these, does your company have what it takes to motivate your employees, your stakeholders, or even yourself? Check this out.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal?
As the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
Believe we shall never descend to the German and Japanese level.
It's impossible to accept.
Sounds familiar? These leaders mobilized millions of people by having a vision.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept.
I have a dream. One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
But if anybody likes to play rough, we can play rough too.
And these leaders from the most valuable companies in the world.
Now, one thing that has not changed during our entire history is the vision that drives us.
Well, our mission is Earth's most customer-centric company.
What we want to do is make a leapfrog product that is way smarter than any mobile device has ever been and super easy to use.
They all had one thing in common: a vision for their organization. In fact, after the pandemic, the world as we know it is going to be a whole different place. Does your current vision for the company still hold ground? Are all stakeholders in your company aligned on the vision you have, whether employees, executives, owners, or shareholders? If you don't have the answer to these questions, don't worry. Just stay tuned, because this management tool hack will give you exactly what you need to get these questions answered and much more. Your purpose, your raison d'être, is defined by your vision, mission, and aspirational statements. It's a guiding compass that's central to your business processes, unity, strategy, performance, culture, and much more. Whether you're a small, medium, or large enterprise, you must have internal alignment on a clear set of goals and objectives that are based on your vision for your enterprise. In this session, I'll give you exactly what you need to both assess your current vision and craft a new one if you want to, and as an added bonus, I will give you the method you need to get it done in 1 hour or less. I will demonstrate to you why this management tool in its current form and how it's being put to use today is no longer suitable for 2020 and beyond. And I will show you how to fix this. And as a final bonus, at the end of this presentation, I will guide you through the exact 4 steps that will enable you to draft your own statement in less than 60 minutes. Before we get started, if you're interested in learning more about hacking your business model, please do sign up to our free live web training on 2020hacks.com. That's 2020hacks.com. It's free and it condenses over 1 million hours of engagement work to give you the 3 hacks you need to transform your organization and get solid results. Now let's dive into the content. In the following session, I will answer 6 questions with the objectives to give you the right tools, help you rethink and review yours, and most importantly, shed some light on the issues with the tools in use today. The first question I'm going to address is why have a vision in the first place. I will then show you what's wrong with the current vision mission statement tools and statements that are widely in use today. And thirdly, you'll see why in all cases you must reassess the vision mission statement you already have in place. And fourth, I'll show you how to diagnose the one you already have. Next, I'll move on to illustrate how easy the process is of crafting a statement. And I'll close by showing you how to develop a vision mission in less than 1 hour. And if you want the process to be inclusive, you can involve the entire organization and get it done in half-a-day workshop. Now, Vision Mission Tool is one of the most popular tools among companies of all sizes and sectors that has been in use for decades and remain popular up to this very day. When we engage with businesses, almost always, we do assessment of the building blocks of how employees, owners, managers, and shareholders are aligned on the aspirations, goals, and strategic objectives of the organizations that are typically derived from the vision and mission statement. Because without alignment, leading an organization, no matter what size, would be like herding cats. Historically, the term vision was derived from spiritual or supernatural encounters in religion that gave an insight into future events. In the Bible, there are several characters who experienced visions. From Buddhism, Judaism, or Christianity, visions have always been about foreseeing the future and finding meaning. They give insight of what's yet to happen and allow people to define their purpose. In business, a vision statement is a picture of how a company is envisioned between now and the future. It formulates a core ideology, a purpose of existence of the company's guiding principles, and a direction for how the company will develop over time. The vision and mission statements are the starting point for a company's strategic direction, organization, business and operating model. Vision and strategic direction start from the way up at the top, where founders and shareholders provide the initial direction, and it cascades down to the board of directors and executive management team, thereby contributing to proper governance that's grounded on having a common vision, mission, and strategic direction. They are the starting point for a company's organization and operating model. It is your raison d'être. It aligns everyone from shareholders to stakeholders to employees towards a common goal. It is what sets you apart, and it's central to business processes, unity, strategy, performance, culture, and much more. Once vision and mission statements are set at the top, they provide the guiding principles for strategic direction by setting strategic goals and objectives at every level of the organization. This helps achieve alignment and unity at every level and sets the standards for performance evaluation, thereby achieving a healthy and a desirable state of a company's culture. In a nutshell, vision and mission statements define your purpose, can unite your company, help guide your strategic direction, set a standard for performance assessment, and help create a healthy corporate culture. The vision statement formulation depends on the operating model of a company. For example, we define the operating model as illustrated here with 4 levels ranging from lowest level of control, where you would just want to know the results of your business, to medium-low, where you exercise strategic oversight, down to a more active role where you get involved into how an organization is doing, and all the way down to being operationally involved, that's involved in the day-to-day operation. And if you're a holding company, you might actually have multiple vision statements for your subsidiaries. Whereas actually, if you're a day-to-day or actively involved company, you would have a single vision mission statement. Let's look at some real-life examples. Carlyle Group statement, for instance, would target investors. And their statement is, inspire the confidence of loyalty of our investors. Whereas every company in their portfolio, even wholly owned companies, would have their own statements. Now compare that to a consumer-facing company like Starbucks. Their statement would target consumers. Their statement states, to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time, which we will actually illustrate in the next few slides. But no matter which operating model, we will see how the vision mission statements can achieve what we discussed so far. To achieve its purpose and what we've discussed so far, the vision, mission, and aspirational statements should target 5 different audiences, including shareholders, board members, executive leadership team, employees, customers, but each with varying emphasis. That depends on the level of control and business model as we just showed you. But also combining 4 key building blocks that shape the statements. The first building block is the strategic direction. It's initially set by the founders and shareholders, but then is refined over time by the board and owners' representatives, ensuring alignments of interest and proper governance. The second building block is the identity. Identity is how an organization is perceived by external and external stakeholders and encompasses top-of-mind brand perception. The third building block addresses priorities and challenges. Priorities and challenges are time-dependent, which is key to why a vision mission should be assessed more frequently than traditional 10 to 25 years horizon. And last but not least, the fourth building block is culture. A good framework for organization culture is defined in the Competing Values framework by Cameron and Quinn, which simplifies culture into 2-dimensional levels consisting of flexibility versus control and internal versus external focus. These building blocks cover 4 dimensions, including strategy, operations, fiduciary, and perception. As you can see, these statements serve more than just a nicely written slogan, and the idea is hard to communicate with a single statement. This is why statements are frequently subject to different interpretations by different stakeholders. And that's why, for statements to achieve their purpose, you must periodically measure and ensure alignment across these dimensions and aspects that the vision, mission statements set out to achieve. And how do you do that? That's what we'll discuss next. The first issue we frequently see when we engage with our client organizations is that stakeholders in most organizations are not aligned on what the vision, mission, and aspirational statements' meaning and objectives are supposed to be. And when there's alignment on meaning, they're likely not what they aspire the organizations to be. We'll get to why this is the case in the coming slides, but the main takeaway here is to assess alignment periodically and aim for as close alignment as possible. Now, to ensure alignment, we recommend periodic surveys be conducted to assess how current vision ties up with stakeholders' current and aspired state. Why do that, you may ask? Well, for one, it provides you with the insights you need to decide on what actions you can take internally to achieve alignment and be able to harness the benefits of this powerful management tool. These actions could vary anywhere from internal communications to reassessing what you already have or recrafting existing statements. Bottom line, what action to take is an easy task if you know exactly your current state and where you want the alignment to be at. Once assessment is completed, survey results can be visually overlaid to view how far apart alignment is and problem areas. We're happy to assist you in conducting and visualizing this assessment. And if you're interested, just indicate in the comment section below. A word of caution though, while the organization's goal and objectives are typically derived from the strategic plan and are aligned with vision and mission statement, however, if an old school time horizon ranging from 5 to 25 years is added to these steps, then these steps could prove detrimental to your organization through cognitive biases. And this is the second issue I want to highlight with the way this tool is commonly adopted today. Let's now examine why. When David Kahneman was once asked about what he would eliminate if he had a magic wand from all the different cognitive biases that he's identified in his best-selling book, Thinking Fast and Slow, his answer was overconfidence. Overconfidence, he said, was the most pervasive and potentially catastrophic of all cognitive biases to which human beings fall victim. Scott Plous, a social psychologist at Stanford, blames lawsuits, strikes, wars, stock market bubbles, and crashes on overconfidence. You may be asking yourself, why are we bringing this up? Because this pervasive school of thought that I just showed you for setting vision statements for 10 to 25 years and building strategic plan with five-year time horizon pushes people to succumb to what's called prospect theory. For those of you that don't know prospect theory, it's about how people tend to prefer small gains over much larger losses. I would like to draw your attention to one of the most popular management tools today, which is strategic planning. When we put so much effort into strategic planning and commit to a 5-year strategic plan, we lose sight of the bigger picture. And as we buy into our forecasts, we automatically become overconfident with our predictions and end up clinging to these plans and then find it much more difficult to let go even when circumstances call for it. William Starbuck, a professor at NYU, demonstrated in his research that formal strategizing makes insignificant contributions to profit and that in fact, formalization undercuts the value of strategizing and that no one can forecast accurately over the long term. But strategists can make strategizing more realistic and can use it to build healthier, more alert and responsive organizations. He suggests to adopt forecasts to foster alertness and strategize in ways that make it easier to change strategies later. As a matter of fact, in this day and age, real-time or dynamic update of strategic plans is what's called for due to the complex world we currently live in. Let me illustrate with a concrete example. I want to start with the expansion of the industrial technology infrastructure and market systems around the world, which we call the digital revolution. So the digital revolution and the global network that interconnects billions of people is one of many factors that's transforming our world. This transformation and the pace of change of the world as we know it is also accelerating. Consider this. When we entered the information revolution age, we immersed ourselves in a growing sea of data that sorts from numerous sources, including places like internet search histories, smart homes, social media, RFID tags, GPS data, you name it. Companies and organizations are not well prepared to handle this new era of digital transformation, which is generating an unprecedented amount of multi-structured data that we now call big data. To top this off, industrial companies are now also in the process of converting themselves to digital industrial companies. They do that by creating a digital reflection of their assets and their products. Let me explain. Physical assets are now surrounded by sensors and controllers that can pull massive amount of data from assets and products, which all provide real-time data that goes into a virtual model of the system that's unique to that product, asset, equipment, or machine. This digital reflection of the physical asset is a virtual image located in the cloud and is maintained throughout the life cycle of the asset or the product that's accessible on demand. Take the example of a new car that comes into the market today. Say you go and purchase a new car today. The minute you start off the engine of that new car, thousands of data points are generated. In the same manner we generate data from that new car, we generate data every time we make a call, we exercise, we watch a video, we search the web, we make a purchase, or even walk past a security camera. To give you an idea of the sheer amount of data that's generated today, in a single day today, we collect more data than the entire world had in digital data available only a decade ago. The majority of this data is not useful, but from what's considered useful data, the vast majority of it remains untapped as companies are not prepared to process even the crucial data that are being generated in this emerging paradigm. In the corporate world, surveys show that less than 5% of companies are successful at combining the right tools with the right people to make use of important data in order to benefit or even remain competitive in this new paradigm. Management tools, whether balanced scorecards, analytics, strategic planning, or any other tool, depend on the right data in real time to remain up to date and competitive in 2020 and beyond. I want you to consider this. In the past, computing power was a scarce resource, and only large enterprise was able to afford and leverage technology as a competitive advantage. Small and medium-sized enterprise had no such prerogative. This has now all changed. With the invention of global-scale cloud computing, which makes high-end computing power available to all organizations of all sizes at a very low cost and on demand, with the right strategy, small companies and even startups are now able to compete with large enterprise and scale up exponentially with a blink of an eye. This paradigm shift we're experiencing has brought us into an age of complexity where winners takes all is the norm, and where most of our world works is now mediated and interlinked by systems that are only increasing in complexity. These complex systems that are taking shape take the form of interconnected, self-similar networks that we compare to what we call fractals that span beyond traditional domain and boundaries. Yet despite all this complexity, we continue to adopt a reductionist approach to problem solving. We do so by building hypotheses on the basis of flawed assumptions. We plan according to incremental linear progress, and in the process we ignore feedback loops while assuming that complex systems are predictable and controllable, but they aren't. This reductionist methodology focuses our attention and response on individual parts rather than considering how those parts are interrelated into the whole. While such an approach did serve us well in the past and helped us put a man on the moon and helped us understand atoms and DNA, it's unfortunately blinding us in this new paradigm where a fresh approach is needed. Therefore, we need to consider the whole context within which events happen. So whenever we think we have to change the individual components and see static snapshots, we should reconsider and adopt a different and holistic approach while developing a better understanding of the dynamic processes that shape these events. Rooted in physics, reductionism or analysis is the process of breaking down or reducing a large system to its constituent parts, and then describing the entire system as the sum of its individual parts. When we analyze these individual components in isolation and put them back together, we ignore how they interact and neglect the time component and feedback loops. The reductionist analytical approach is what's adopted among most problem-solving methodologies today. It is based on incremental, linear progress. And chief among problems resulting from the reductionist approach is related to business and organizational management. As you're well aware, the key factor for the high-performance organization's success is the proper deployment of management tools and your business model. For analogy's sake, let's compare the deployed management tools in an organization as a third layer of abstraction, as similar to what an application would be to a computer, and the second layer as processes and procedures comparable to an operating system on a computer, and the first layer of abstraction would be the people and organization structure that compares to the hardware and firmware on a computer. For those who are not familiar with abstractions, it's a process often adopted in computer science and programming, but also applicable in engineering. For example, the blueprint representation of a building is one level of abstraction below the actual building itself and is designed to capture the essential features of the building. In computer science, on the other hand, machine code is several layers below the application software and the algorithm. In music, the layer of a symphony would be the notes. Instruments and orchestra would be another layer, etc. So, in essence, every layer can exist without the layer above it, but requires the layers below it to function. So with this example, I hope to have illustrated the problem for you, and that now you're able to imagine how the hierarchy depends on the entire system in consideration. Moreover, you can now understand how when management tools are deployed in a reductionist manner and in isolation, by adopting ceteris paribus in the process, popular management tools like vision and mission statements, strategic planning, or balanced scorecards would have numerous limitations. For those of you that haven't heard of the term ceteris paribus, it means other things equal, and it's central to the reductionist approach. It is when variables within an environment are artificially held constant to isolate and assess the linear effect on a limited number of variables under observation. Reductionism that's applied in business management is based on maintaining most external and internal variables within the organization constant and assumes that the outcome can be controlled through a single or small number of variables. In contrast, the guiding principle of holism is panta-rhei, meaning everything flows. Where the reductionism breaks the process down into static parts, the holistic paradigm is focused on considering the whole processes and is fundamentally concerned with how things change through the processes that act on them. So now let's do a deep dive on these limitations by taking a concrete example on the way the management tools are deployed in practice. The first limitation of these management tools is the fact the way management tools are deployed, which is statically, and usually implemented and forgotten. The results you get is at best additive. The second limitation is that they're linear and homogeneous. We define that as the result of their deployment as being directly proportional to their input. Therefore, the linearity or a straight line, as opposed to, say, exponential results. This is because of the reductionism which we discussed earlier. Tools are usually implemented one at a time and never in a holistic manner. Or worse, they're not based on organizational needs. Many times you see management tools being implemented based on the flavor of the month. If today the topic happens to be about big data and artificial intelligence, then you see corporations diverting all resources to implementing these tools in isolation. Not to mention that the majority of such programs fail to achieve the objectives they set out to achieve. So in effect, those first two limitations make these tools outdated for 2020, and the way these tools are deployed is broken in almost all aspects and across all businesses we've worked with. And this continues to this very day. The third limitation we've seen in client organizations is that most management tools we've seen being deployed are internally isolated. What I mean by that is that they're neither directly or indirectly connected to other management tools within the organizations. And last but not least, the fourth limitation is that despite the external aspects and factors these tools are supposed to capture, they're externally isolated as well. In a sense, they act like a black box with input from within and output displayed as reports and paperwork with no feedback loops, while their purpose is to be updated in real time and adjust dynamically, which we will show in a later example. To sum it up, you can see how the third and fourth limiting factors prevent organizations from reacting quickly to the first sign of threat or risk. It takes them too long to react to internal and external factors, reacting often too late, thus limiting the ability for companies to hedge and respond to threats, risks, or black swan events. So what we're actually proposing is a two-pronged strategy with two objectives. The first is to capture the positive constructive feedback loop, and the second is to help you achieve emergence. These are by no means exhaustive or one-size-fits-all. Cases may need different strategies, but let's examine these two strategies and objectives. To achieve positive constructive interference, you would need to adopt these 5 steps. You would need to ensure coordination and orchestration among management tools. You need to add feedback loops and leverage constructive effect of power law and synergies. You need to account for time dependency. You should calibrate strategy and initiatives dynamically and include oblique strategic initiatives. For those that don't understand obliquity, it means indirectly. Obliquity is called for in complex system where direct cause and effect don't exist, as the outcome is emergence, which we discussed in the next hack. Since we cannot directly affect the goals in a complex system, we aim around it by taking an oblique approach to affect strategic goals. As an example, if we want to land a rocket on the moon, we wouldn't directly aim at the moon. We would direct the rocket slightly off from the most direct line and let the gravity of the moon catch it and bring it into the desired final point. I know this may sound counterintuitive, but it's actually simpler than you think. In the case of a business, for example, we could take the example of selecting initiatives around providing, let's say, best customer experience or customer retention and customer satisfaction instead of, say, maximizing profit per customer. Now to the second objective, which is attaining emergence status in an organization. Emergence is the process through which a new organization that leverages synergies and synchronization emerges. We use it as a metaphor to describe this objective. Example of emergence is the metamorphosis of a butterfly from being a caterpillar to a mature adult. To achieve this, you need to ensure 3 steps are adopted. First, you need to integrate and synchronize management tools by linking them internally together with other management tools within the organization. Second, you need to achieve emergent organization by linking the internally linked management tools to the external dimension in a holistic system that feeds back to the organization. And final step is to dynamically update goals and objectives and conduct deep root cause analysis on challenges or issues that may impede your desired goals and objectives.
Now, back to the topic on hand. Our vision and mission statements go hand in hand. They're only effective when they work together. They can be combined into a single aspirational statement, but in all cases, when creating these statements, you should think about how they define your purpose as a unit. An effective vision statement has 4 dimensions: focus, time horizon, tone, and audience. Your vision statement must focus on key priorities and activities, provide visibility for the long term, have challenging, motivating, believable, and aspiring tone, and address your stakeholders' key concerns. When developing statements from scratch, you can perform internal surveys and a workshop as these ensure ownership and alignment across the organization. We will illustrate that by example at the end of the presentation. As a starting point, you can start composing your vision by answering 4 key questions. What do we want to be? How can we be superior to our competitors? How do we want to be perceived? What enables us to achieve a competitive advantage? To answer these questions and be more elaborate, you can dive deeper into the details of each question and as illustrated here. For example, on answering what do we want to be, you can dive deeper into, let's say, industry practices and market role. Ask yourself these questions. What industry practices do we want to adapt? What role do I want to play in the market? Innovator, best in class, follower, niche, player, etc. Meanwhile, your vision statement must focus on the main attributes of organizational activity, remain achievable based on present capabilities, activities, and values, and address the main stakeholders as well as the general public. The mission statement articulates an organization's direction and is consistent with shareholders' values and goals. A mission statement has 3 components: vision, milestone, and action. First of all, your mission statement should describe how the organization will achieve its vision. You can think of it that way. Vision is the thought, and mission is the action. So think about what your goals are, what you provide to customers, and what you plan to contribute to the world. The next component of a mission is how you'll measure your progress. What milestones are you planning on accomplishing on your way to success? Milestones can also have dates attached to them. The last component of a mission involves action. How does your company plan to achieve the goals and milestones that you've identified? Action creates the theme of your mission statement and should show people your unique characteristics. To create an effective mission statement, you must consider its typical components and answer 4 key questions. What should we be doing? What should our results be? What standards should we use? How should this benefit stakeholders? And as I mentioned earlier, an inclusive workshop or survey-style 4-step approach can also be adopted to draft the statements prior to approval by the board or owner's rep. These steps are illustrated in the next few slides. If you need a copy of these to use as cheat sheets to structure your survey or workshop, please let us know in the comment section below. Crafting a vision and mission statements in a workshop-like format can be accomplished by addressing 4 dimensions, including tone, orientation, and content. Content drawn from inspirations and case studies can help you get closer to drafting a full statement quickly, as shown in the example below. For a survey-style participation, a survey can be drafted in the form of 10 questions to help craft these statements. Well, this wraps it up, and congratulations on making it this far. I know that I may have dumped a lot of information on you in such a short session, but the fact of the matter is that it's hard to condense such a topic into such a short session. I also may have illustrated some concepts that are counterintuitive to you and go against heuristics, which is the whole point of this hack, to avoid the tool's limitations. But I do have an extended seminar that explains most of the concept in this executive summary tutorial and goes beyond one single tool. If you're really interested in learning more, please do sign up to our free live training web class on 2020hacks.com. That's 2020hacks.com, and it's free, and it took us about 6 months to put this together for you. If you need any of the checklists or cheat sheets provided herein, just raise your hand by commenting below. We hope you've enjoyed it so far. It's important to note, though, that no management tool alone is sufficient for your organization to transform to a best-in-class organization. To become a leader in your industry, you need a comprehensive system consisting of multiple management tools and strategies that apply to your unique business niche and situation. Vision and mission statement is only one such tool.